It's time for Money for Lunch, where we feed your brain and your business with supersized portions of business and financial news. Now your host, Bert Martinez.
Let's get this party started, so to speak. My first guest is Norm Blumenthal. Norm Blumenthal is a regular contributor here on the show, and he's also a labor law attorney / expert. He's the guy that takes big labor to task and makes sure that us working class stiffs get paid correctly. And it's little things that make a huge difference, such as being classified correctly. And he's been on the show several times when he talks about how by being misclassified, you're actually getting ripped off literally by the tune of tens of thousands of dollars. As always, it's good to have him on the show. Norm Blumenthal, welcome back to Money for Lunch.
Thanks, Bert. Nice for you to talk to you again, and let's talk to the working stiffs out there to see if we can make them some money. We talked before about how all of us have to be felony stupid if they vote for anyone that's not pro-labor. I'm going to expand that today, and I'm going to say you have to be felony stupid not to vote for anyone that's not pro-labor and anti-tax, because just like you can make more money, if your taxes go up, you aren't going to have it in your pocketbook. So I urge all workers out there in America to unite if you have nothing to lose but your chains. So the question for today is, how do we get wages up and taxes down? Well, that's pretty simple. You vote for people that will put more people to work, because the more people that work, the more tax revenue comes into our government. And then a rising tide floats all ships, because that increased revenue without increasing taxes puts more money in the coffers of government to pay their bills without increasing the taxes for us. Now, how do we do that? One is, and we've talked about it many, many times on your program, is, and as you brought up earlier, is by having persons properly classified. And this is done by eliminating the exemptions to overtime pay. And we talked last time about our President Obama, who portends to be pro-labor, but who has in his hands, like he always says, I got the pen in my hand. Well, he has a pen in his hand, and all he has to do is change the federal regulations, narrow the exemptions for nurses, claims adjusters, sorting supervisors, aisle managers, who are all being classified, and assistant managers as exempt from overtime wages. And what results? We have 4 people working 50-plus hours a week. If our president would only get out his pen and put a new federal regulation in place, we would then have 5 people working 40 hours a week, 5-plus people working 40 hours a week, which would increase the workforce by 2 to 4 million overnight. And that rising tide will float all ships. It'll happen, Bert. And we can make it happen if our audience, all the working stiffs out there, regardless of your other politics, whether you're
Democrat or Republican,
anti-gun, Democrat, Republican, Party, one party, two party, whatever your party is, ask your potential congressman or potential senator before you vote for them if they are pro-labor. And that means, 1, narrowing the exemption for overtime pay, and 2, today I want to expand on that and talk about minimum wage, because I'm sure all of our audience out there has heard all the rhetoric about the minimum wage. And remember, the people on minimum wage in this country are only 5% of the workforce. And this 5% of the workforce, this minimum wage has not kept pace with inflation. And the recent article 50 years ago, the minimum wage was $1.15, and the March on Washington was really about getting that minimum wage up to $2. Today, the minimum wage is $7.25, and putting it up to $15 is consistent with $1.15 to $2. It's about the same percentage increase, and we have to be. All laborers have to unite, and we have to be for the entire workforce. Let's get the bottom up, because guess what? If we don't work for them to get their minimum wage up and require their employers to pay them this increased rate, guess who's paying for their food stamps and their other needs and their Medicaid? And it's us, the other working stiffs out there. And so let's let the employers pay them a fair wage and spread the money around. It all doesn't have to go to profits for the shareholders. And by all of us being in favor of an increased minimum wage, which is pro-labor, and getting the bottom up, a rising tide will float more ships. There'll be more people making more money. Those folks, they're not putting the money in the bank. Believe me, they're going to be out there spending that money, which will cause more products to be bought, which will cause more people to have jobs, which will rise the tide throughout America and get us all back to work.
Let me ask you this, Norm. All right, because adjusted for inflation, minimum wage should be where? $15, $18 an hour?
No, it should. 15 is the right number. You know, when I was a kid and making $1.15 an hour, it was basically the same as $15 today. Believe it or not, $2 today, 50 years ago, is $13.39 if you want to be exact.
Wow.
So $15 isn't much different. And everybody's out there, parents and grandparents out there. That's the kind of numbers we were talking about. So we got to be in a position where we got to support labor. Here's the other problem where they divide.
And here's what's interesting. It's not so much about how do I want to express this? Here's the way I look at it. It's about supporting yourself, because if you're living on minimum wage or $8 or $9 an hour or $10 an hour, you are living in poverty. You're struggling. At $15 an hour, you can at least take care of your family a little bit, right?
You can, and there's a lot of people on minimum wage in these places are single moms trying to take care of a kid. I don't know how they do it, but they're going to need government assistance, that's for sure. So let's get them where they don't need government assistance. Let's get them to the next level. These are the kind of things that can be done if we have a pro-labor Congress, a pro-labor Senate, and a pro-labor president, and we don't have any of that. All we have is lip service from all of them. And that's because we aren't doing our homework.
And this is what boggles my mind. You hear this from all politicians, that we have to cut expenses, that we have to reduce all these government programs, but yet they don't want to do something so basic, so necessary, and just, so human as to raise the minimum wage to keep up with inflation. Think about it. If everybody who's on minimum wage right now got $15 an hour, right there is a bunch of people getting off food stamps, getting off rent subsidies. It's amazing.
And that brings the burden down. But it's not happening. Why isn't it happening? It's very simple, because Washington is controlled by corporate capitalists. And I don't say that in a bad sense. If I was on the other side of the aisle and I was an advocate for corporate capitalists, I would have a lobbyist. I would be in there lobbying Congress to make sure that the minimum wage didn't go up, so that my labor costs were down and my shareholders had more profit. That's their job. But our job as advocates for labor and the working stiff of America's job is to smarten up and don't vote into office people that are not pro-labor and are not going to and make sure they're not going to raise your taxes. I like the idea, the Tea Party's idea of making sure government doesn't raise taxes, but they got to take it one step further, as do the Democrats and Republicans, and they got to be pro-labor. They got to be in a position where they're going to narrow these exemptions, put more people back to work. These claims adjuster jobs and these sorting supervisor jobs and these nursing jobs, these are all good jobs, paying $50,000, $60,000, $70,000 a year. But what they're doing is they're working nurses on 12-hour shifts. They're working sorting supervisors on 60 hours a week, and they're working all these additional assistant managers, alleged, and aisle managers on 50, 60 hours a week, so they don't have to hire more personnel. And that's why there's a lot of people looking for jobs. There's a lot of people coming out of these wars in Afghanistan and Iraq that are looking for jobs, good jobs, that can't get them because it's being taken by people working excessive hours. And the president can change that overnight. He doesn't need Congress. All he's got to do is amend the federal regulations on exemptions. That he can do overnight. And these are the things that are not being done for the working stiff. And the reason is because this country is controlled by corporate capitalists in Congress, in the presidency, and in the Senate. And until we change who's in office, nothing good's going to happen. But we got an election coming up in 2014, and I'm devoting my shows between now and the election to educate the public so that they're in a position henceforth that they're going to ask the right questions. Are you pro-labor? That's the question that they have to ask.
Well, not only just being
see
pro-labor,
what the answer is.
You know, I want to take it one step further. They really have to be pro-humanity, because to make somebody live on $7.30 an hour, knowing good and well that puts them in poverty is just plain wrong. I mean, so they have to be pro-labor. They have to be aggressive to make sure that, you know, that big labor doesn't screw everybody over. And I agree with what you said. If you and I were controlling one of these big companies, yeah, we want to keep our costs down, but also there's the other side of this, the attitude. I mean, if you are, crushing your people's spirit, they're not going to want to stay working with you. You're going to have high turnover. You're going to have more sick people, and so therefore your costs go up that way. We see it all the time. Companies like Sappos, where they let you express yourself. They pay you above minimum wage. They give you extra sick days and personal days. They treat their people with respect and dignity, and their health costs are way down. Their profits are way up.
And that's an argument that kind of falls on deaf ears. You know, as I said, I'm not a union guy. The only union I believe in is the Union of the United States of America. And the Union of the United States of America is passing laws that are pro-labor. And we can do that if the right people are in office, but we can't do it if we don't stick together. If everybody that's a working stiff, if he goes out there and say, I got mine and I don't care about minimum wage, that's how they win, because they divide and conquer. We got to stick together. We got to stick together. We got to ask the right questions from here until the election in November of 2014. You ask the candidates, are you pro-labor? Are you for increasing the minimum wage? Are you for narrowing the exemptions for overtime pay? These are the kind of questions that the electorate has to ask, because whether they're Tea Party, Republican Party, or Democratic Party, it doesn't matter to labor. We just want them to be pro-labor. These are the things that are important to all of us.
Well, Norm, you know what, Norm, I love the way you think, and I'm looking forward to your campaign from here on until the new election. And I think that a lot of people are going to rally behind you, because I think a lot of people are sick and tired and they don't want to take it anymore.
They don't want to take it anymore. And our job, this is money for lunch. And guess what? We're here And I'm here on your show. We're here to make the workers some money. And the only way we can make them money is if they unite. Whenever a labor needs something, be pro-labor, just like all the corporations, corporate capitalists, are pro-corporation. That's their job. It's not a bad thing.
Right.
That's what they should be doing. It's okay. But it's okay, guess what, for us to be pro-labor and put our people in office instead of the corporation's people. Let's end the stranglehold that the lobbyists for the corporation have on America. Let's change the way they work in Washington.
I love it. Norm, we're out of time. Guys, if you want to reach out to Norman, if you want to get behind what he's doing and what he's talking about, if you need help with your labor questions, check out Norm Blumenthal and his team at BAMLawCA.com. That's BAMLaw.com. Norm Blumenthal, looking forward to speaking with you next time.
All right, Bert. You have a good one. Take care.
All right, bye-bye. As always, we appreciate you here. Please come back.
Tune in Monday through Friday here on Money for Lunch. And check out our website at moneyforlunch.com.